Up to 20 miles an hour. Cloudy, and the clouds hang around until midday, and then there is some sun in the forecast for the afternoon, high 43. 44 at O'Hare, temperatures dropping. Next news at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by the IRS Radio Hour with Stephen Leahy. Every Sunday afternoon at 5 on AM 560, The Answer.
If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Welcome back. Can we remember how we got here? And I don't mean how we got here with respect to the pandemic. I mean how we got here as America, the most powerful, the richest nation the world has ever seen. Can we remember how we got here? To help us do that, I hearken back to one of the most important essays, really, certainly of the last century, I'd say since America's founding. It's not one of our founding documents, but it might as well be. A little essay by a gentleman very few people have heard of, unfortunately, Leonard Read, who is the founder of the Foundation for Economic Education, who in 1958 penned, or should I say penciled, an essay called I Pencil. I pencil, simple though I appear to be, merit your wonder and awe. A claim I shall attempt to prove. In fact, if you can understand me, no, that's too much to ask of anyone. If you can become aware of the miraculousness which I symbolize, you can help save the freedom mankind is so unhappily losing. I have a profound lesson to teach, and I can teach this lesson better than can an automobile or an airplane or a mechanical dishwasher because I am so seemingly simple. And I'll let Nobel laureate Milton Friedman pick it up from there.
Look at this lead pencil. There's not a single person in the world who could make this pencil. Remarkable statement? Not at all. The wood from which it's made, for all I know, comes from a tree that was cut down in the state of Washington. To cut down that tree, it took a saw. To make the saw, it took steel. To make the steel, it took iron ore. This black center, we call it lead, but it's really graphite, compressed graphite. I'm not sure where it comes from, but I think it comes from some mines in South America. This red top up here, the eraser, bit of rubber, probably comes from Malaya, where the rubber tree isn't even native. It was imported from South America by some businessmen with the help of the British government. This brass ferrule, I haven't the slightest idea where it came from, or the yellow paint, or the paint that made the black lines, or the glue that holds it together. Literally thousands of people cooperated to make this pencil. People who don't speak the same language, who practice different religions, who might hate one another if they ever met. When you go down to the store and buy this pencil, you are in effect trading a few minutes of your time for a few seconds of the time of all those thousands of people. What brought them together and induced them to cooperate to make this pencil? There was no commissar sending out orders from some central office. It was a magic of the price system, the impersonal operation of prices that brought them together and got them to cooperate to make this pencil so that you could have it for a trifling sum. That is why the operation of the free market is so essential, not only to promote productive efficiency, but even more, to foster harmony and peace among the peoples of the world.
I'll post that video from Friedman's Free to Choose series, as well as Leonard Read's essay. You want your kids to read something while they're at home, read I Pencil. And maybe send it to your congressperson as well, as they think that they're going to save the American economy by supporting its shuttering. I go back to the Journal editorial that was posted yesterday, Rethinking the Shutdown. No society can safeguard public health for long at the cost of its overall economic health. It seems to me there's a rebalancing in order in terms of the approach that we're taking to quell this pandemic. And this is not to minimize the public health threat it poses and that it's already exacted, but you don't destroy the economy to save yourself. In point of fact, you're expediting your own demise and your country's along with it. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by John Tamny, editor of Real Clear Markets, RealClearMarket's.com, director of the Center for Economic Freedom at FreedomWorks, and author of The End of Work, Why Your Passion Can Become Your Job, if you're allowed to pursue it, I suppose. John Tamny, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
What's your view in terms of before we get to the specific proposals and what the Senate Republicans have cobbled together, what's your view in terms of the balance that has been struck thus far between addressing the public health crisis and the economic crisis it has instigated?
I think it's horrifying. Let's not forget that markets were pricing coronavirus for quite some time. They knew it was coming to the United States, yet there was no market correction. Then politicians across the country, all in the name of for your own good, decided to shut down the most dynamic economy in the world. They turned it overnight into a command and control. In states like New Jersey, there are curfews at 5 o'clock. In Bethesda, Maryland, the rule is you must shut down your restaurant as of 5 o'clock. People are not free to work right now, and as you allude, you cannot fight disease if you are pursuing economic decline at the same time. The U.S., it used to be that people died of all manner of things. It used to be that they were crippled of all manner of things. We were a poor country then. We are a rich country now, hence people don't die as readily. Yet politicians, in their infinite wisdom, are shutting down the very engine of wealth creation that enables a fight against all manner of diseases. It's staggering to think about. It would be funny if it weren't so. You could not make a movie that no one could ever have imagined politicians could be this obtuse.
Well, what do you think President Trump should do? And I don't know what state you're in. Where are you, John?
I'm in Bethesda, Maryland, but I'm basically in Washington, D.C.
All right. Well, what do you think President Trump should do and governors of towns or governors of states do?
Well, I think the answer from the president is, and let's be clear, the media were going to vilify Trump no matter what he did. So why not state the obvious? That the miracle of capitalism that produces abundance in all manner of other ways also has produced all sorts of cures. He should have said that the federal government will not get involved. What does it know about disease cure? Furthermore, where in the Constitution does it say the federal government has a job to do this? President Trump should have said, I am going to do everything in my power as president to keep the economy free so that free, creative individuals matched with capital can as quickly as possible come up with a fix. Everyone reasonably mocks central planning during good times. Why on earth would the federal government call for central planning and a national approach to something that they deem a crisis during crisis times?
And so the Senate Republicans' approach, which is the $1,200 a person for $2,400 a household with $500 kickers per child, up to $99,000 if you're an individual, up to $198,000 if you're a household. Way to get money in people's hands to maintain demand, in addition to some tax relief and reordering of loss carry forwards. What's your view on what has been proposed?
Oh, it's a massive non sequitur. I mean, there's so many ways to attack what is absurd. But the first thing is, let's remember, what were we saying today is March 20th, what were we saying on February 20th? We weren't clamoring for any of this. And why weren't we? Because the U.S. economy was still largely free. So essentially, politicians on the local, state, and national level shut down the economy, and then they say, okay, we're wrecking your ability to improve your lives and everything, and so we will then, because we're so powerful, use money that we've taken from you in the first place, taken from the private sector, and give it back to you. Have they lost their minds? If they hadn't intervened in the first place, there wouldn't be a call for anything like this. And let's add, there's no such thing as increasing demand. For government to hand out money, that's a sign that the growth already took place. And so what drives economic growth? Well, investment. I mean, of course, economists will tell you consumption drives economic growth. Oh, yeah, how does that work in Haiti? No, production drives economic growth. Production is a consequence of investment. So politicians have quite literally, and we know that the rich pay the vast majority of taxes, so they're taking money from those most capable of investing and handing it to people to consume, handing it to people who didn't need this money just a few weeks ago, because at the time politicians were not stripping them of their ability to earn a living. You cannot make up how inept this is. Let's be very clear. There is nothing economic about what's happening. This is not a recession. This is the morphing of a dynamic economy into a command and control. The crisis is all political. It is not economic, and let's not insult the greatest economy on earth and pretend that capitalists caused this. No, this was caused by politicians who haven't a clue about how people prosper.
Now, you do have some capitalists that are proposing something similar to the politicians. I mean, I saw Bill Ackman on CNBC, who's a billionaire hedge fund manager, talk about a 30-day national shutdown. Now, and he's sort of borrowing from a proposal I've seen from a couple of people, which sounds a little bit sci-fi-ish, but the idea that we stop time for 30 days. In other words, you've probably heard this, shut down everything for 30 days, stop time so that nobody pays anything, nobody does anything, you just shelter in place and you pretend that time has stood still for the next month. What do you say to Mr. Ackman in those?
It's incredible that even the ignorant could believe something so ridiculous. Let's never forget that humans drive all progress. The greatest asset on earth, the greatest driver of cures, of prosperity, you name it, are human beings. And so we are quite literally being told by people, Republican and Democrat, capitalist, billionaires and non-billionaires, that the very people who drive all progress are a menace to one another and must be separated from one another rather than producing and cooperating alongside one another until politicians deem it fit for them to once again be free to work and produce alongside one another. Yes, Bill Ackman is a billionaire, but what a dangerous thinker, and how tragic. There are people, I mean, only in a rich country could the response to this be so ridiculous. Could we have done this 50 years ago? Oh, God, no. We're only able to do this now because affluent people who have no clue about the everyday yearnings and needs of the typical American are basically saying, oh, we've got savings, so we will shut down the economy and wreck the economic lives of all sorts of people who don't have what they have.
You can always count on John Tamny to put a flag down. That's why we love him. John Tamny, editor of RealClearMarket's.com, director of the Center for Economic Freedom at FreedomWorks, and author of The End of Work, Why Your Passion Can Become Your Job. John, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yep, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
The Lou Dobbs Financial Report is brought to you by Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Visit signaturebank.bank for your commercial banking needs.
I'm Keith Peters in for Lou Dobbs. The U.S. is seeking $3 billion to boost oil producers. America's border with Canada will close tonight and Clorox sales skyrocketing. Those stories next.
In a recent survey, investors shared what they felt were the greatest threats to their retirement. It's no surprise the most common threats include stock market volatility, economic uncertainty, conflict in the Middle East, the 2020 presidential impeachment, and election. Unfortunately, there are many threats beyond your control that can affect your retirement savings. At Goldco, a leader in precious metals, the team believes one way to protect your investment portfolio is with physical gold and silver. Goldco has helped thousands of investors safeguard their retirement, especially in times of uncertainty. In fact, if you call 855-971-2006, Goldco will send you a free 1-ounce silver American Eagle coin. And all you have to do is pay for shipping and handling. No obligation. 100% free.